Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of the USL Show. I am Kaylor Hodges. I am back from the land of the dead. I am once it. I'm not even alive. Let's just call it like a half alive kind of thing. I'm not dead, but I'm not alive, but I'm not dead, and that's all that matters. Kind of like that one scene in The Incredibles. Before we get too far, because I see the algorithm, most of you are going to click off in about 45 seconds. So before I lose you, we're going to go ahead tell you about the USL show kit is out. We had Corbin Williams help us out with this one. It's a ton of fun. It has all the colors of the USL basically. So you have your blue of League One, your gold of the championship, your orange of the Future Super League. You have your green of the Academy and the Y. You have your red of League Two, and you have your W League. And we have our protagonist, which is who we are partnered with. By the way, we have some stuff with protagonist that's out now. Check that out with some writing. And then on the back, we have Kit Season, one of our premiere shows, which we'll be getting back and recording very, very soon. 100% of the proceeds, 100% of the proceeds will be going to the Carter Payne Fund down with South Georgia Tormenta to make soccer more affordable. If you don't know, Carter Payne unfortunately passed away last year in a really tragic accident. But Tormenta has set up his fund in his name to make soccer more affordable in South Georgia. So if you want to help out with that and you want to wear a pretty cool kit that we're pretty excited about, and again, if you want to help a good cause, check that out. But that we're not here just for kits. I mean, we're here mostly for kits if we're being dead honest. But outside of that, we're here to talk about some USL footy, and let's go to the person that's going to be to my left. Sure. John.
Yeah, doing well. Happy to be here. I think I was out last week. Everything's kind of a blur at this point, but yeah, happy to be back after what was a really eventful week from top to bottom.
Absolutely. To the person that is down below. Finally back into the winning column, but does it really count? I don't know. Phil.
Hey, I'll take it at this point on the graph of we're finished, we're back. We are so back. El Paso Locomotive after a 2-0 win in Hartford. Yeah, we are so back, baby, and it is good to be back. No, I mean obviously one of those results that you're like, I was staring down of like, if we don't beat Hartford, what am I gonna do? Like, so anyways, all that being said, yeah, happy to be back and happy to be talking about a week in which Locomotive did not lose.
Well, I wish I could relate. I really do wish I could relate. Um, to the person to his right and to my below, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I changed up my running routine today that I actually ran at 7 a.m. randomly versus when I typically do it at noon. And it was just a completely different vibe. And it wasn't very hot when I ran just from living in the South here. But yeah, it felt good. And yeah, Kaylor, you should definitely make the photo of you at the Birmingham Legion match your new cover photo. It made me think of that disappointed stadium meme. I put it into our group chat. And I was like, finally, we have a USL version of it.
There was one Ryan or Alan clipped it at the wrong time. There's one of them where I'm staring directly into the camera. If you can find the clip of it, like I am just deadpanning the camera like the LSU fan from a couple of years ago. It's pretty much the same thing. That went well. I love playing Detroit. It only has brought me good vibes. On the bright side, Nate Steinwasser, top tier crap talker, incredible. He Legion fans were just on him the whole time because they were like, next PK, because there will be a third. It's going bottom right next time. And he just fake mooned us. And like, all right, I can definitely tell you have a toddler. Like, I know where we are in that part of the development. This is incredible. So, yeah, I love Nate. That was a lot of fun. In all seriousness, Detroit City players have always been some of my favorite to interact with, which makes me want to throw up, and I hate admitting that. But that's okay. Look, a lot to talk about today, and today is not a fun chat, and not just because I had to talk about Detroit City. it's also just because like we know what happened out in San Diego. Um, the Loyal officially posted and stuff that we had all kind of known for a long time, but it sucked to see it finally be real. And it's that Loyal are going to no longer be as of next year. And I'm going to let you guys have the floor in just a second, but I didn't write about this. I know we have some pieces that have been published that have been just incredible reads. So please check those out. Those will be in the description. Um, it really hurts, especially to see a club who did everything right by the fans, that tried to do everything right by the fans, that was so community oriented, that wanted to do everything for their community, to be the one shot down. That's really what hurts the most about this. That we have seen many a clubs fold. It's not unusual in the US, but for some reason, Loyal feel different. And it's not even just MLS bad. This just feels like a real hit to the US soccer sphere in general. And I wish Alan was here to talk about it because he knows this better than anyone else, really. But from the outside perspective, like it just makes me sick to see what happened. I know both John and Phil both wrote about this. I don't think Ryan, you ended up writing about it, but whoever wants to open up the floor first, please, by all means.
Yeah, I guess I can go ahead and just jump in. I mean, I think focusing on some of the root causes of this, it's inseparable from MLS coming in. I know you've seen certain reactions online or people trying to say that, well, this team didn't have the money, this team didn't have the stadium situation. All of that comes back to the fact that there's going to be a very well-funded, very involved in the community team from Major League Soccer that's entering the market. Yes, Torero Stadium, where San Diego Loyal were playing, was not going to be a tenable situation going forward financially, just because that venue took too much of the gate revenue. But in a world where there isn't a team that's going to come in and completely eat up the market, this ownership group had the willpower, knew what they were doing in a way that they could have figured out something with the stadium. And the fact that, again, Major League Soccer is coming in, it wasn't worthwhile for them. It's a real shame because San Diego, in comparison to almost every other organization in American soccer, really put their money where their mouth is in terms of the community engagement, standing up for principles. You talk about inclusion, diversity, and the lack of what a lot of USL teams are doing. San Diego basically forfeited a playoff spot in order to stand up for their players in 2020. That is completely laudable. It's something that I think everyone can learn a lesson from, and we're going to be missing it in years going forward.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I think all the people who are like, oh, well, San Diego failed to secure real estate or something like that. It's just such a reductionist view of what's gone on, and so devoid of context when you have this entity coming to town that is going to dominate those conversations, that is going to be able to talk to all of the sponsors that you don't get at the table with, all those sorts of things, because they carry a D1 classification, and like that carries weight, like whether we want to admit it or not. It is tough in the US like sports mindset. It is tough to differentiate a fully professional Division II and minor league. Like when people hear Division II, they hear minor league, they hear AAA. Like they don't hear, hey, this is a community oriented club that does a lot of good things. They're like, how many people watch your games? How many people come, right? And it's not nearly what MLS is going to draw just by virtue of having access to D1. And ultimately, there's not room in a lot of these cities for both of these clubs when MLS like kind of has that, closed door to the Division I stuff. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's just super sad, as you said. And it's just disappointing that we can't have, a city like San Diego deserves multiple professional men's sides, women's sides. Like they should all be able to coexist. And the reality is it's just not a level playing field right now, financially or or otherwise. And until it is, like, we're going to continue to see this sort of thing, unfortunately, I think.
Yeah, I think this is just kind of a tough situation for just U.S. soccer in general, that you never like seeing any soccer club fold for any reason, and it's just you see fewer opportunities for the players to find places to play, for coaches to find places to coach, and take it from a person who lost their football club many years ago. That it just you kind of just lose that community, and you kind of lose that connection to the people in your city, and like it's very tough to see this just be through no fault of Loyal's own that an MLS side has come into town and basically took over the market. It's like seeing that mom and pop coffee shop close down for a Starbucks to come in, and it's just not how we wanted this league to be built. We wanted to see these community teams and to see it survive. And I hate to say the phrase that it's a feature, not a bug, but that's kind of unfortunately the system of U.S. soccer that we have at this time, and that they're just not willing to let this organization succeed because it just doesn't fit their own goals, and it's just really heartbreaking to see.
You know, I think a lot of it comes with the name too. I mean, this gets into a lot of the psychology of a lot of things, right? But think about how smart MLS was to name themselves that. They are Major League Soccer. Anything below it has to be minor league. That is just the semantics of English, right? It's just like we have the Premier League. Anything less than that is not Premier, right? Even if you have Pro Rel, anything less than Premier is not good enough. How many times have we seen a club from the Premier League, or, Germany's not a good example actually, but, from the Premier League fall down to the Championship League One, and what used to be selling out a 20,000, 30,000 person stadium barely draws 5. This is not just a U.S. problem in the sense that if the premier market is not there, but it comes with the name itself. And even if we had these D1 sanctions, think about name recognition. If another version of the National Football League came through that was professional, that was at the same time, that was considered to be quote unquote the same thing as the NFL, but it did not have that shield, do you think it would draw the same as the NFL? Probably not. In all reality, if things are going to be fixed, they need to be done through that name, through the name MLS. In fact, I was listening to a podcast earlier on my drive home from work from a goalkeeper. He was with Bolton Wanderers, Sheffield United, Mark Howard, and he was interviewing a guy and who lived in Canada who's now playing with QPR. And he said, like, when he was coming up just 20 years ago, MLS wasn't in Canada. The CPL wasn't in Canada. He mentioned by name the USL was not in Canada. He said there was not anything there like that 20 years ago. And when you think about that, there are people who have been watching soccer in the US now for decades and decades and decades, in Canada and other places in North America, who the MLS at USL is still young, very young. It's just hard to imagine us really getting that infrastructure in place to fix this when this is the longest thing we've had, and we're afraid to break it because it feels like it's finally working, but it's also working exactly how it's intended to.
I mean, I don't want to just jump and say that U.S. soccer is never going to do anything, but so much of this feels like it's monopolistic in the way that they constantly refuse to take action in support of really any competition to MLS. And that's not even competition, because I don't think that's what the USL is trying to do at the end of the day. It's almost this parasitic relationship where when MLS wants a market, they will enter it at the expense of whoever is there, just at the benefit of the bottom line for them. And US soccer needs to be doing more for that. I do think the next steps for the USL internally are interesting, because say what you will about San Diego, it isn't like they were on the stablest financial grounds. And I think that applies to almost every single team in the league right now. I think the importance of having a stadium situation that's very solid, that allows you to have that revenue base, is going to be a big deal. I think developing other routes to make sure that your club isn't so reliant on butts in the seats to make do is going to be a big deal. And whether that comes from I mean, people talk about promotion relegation like it's the silver bullet to getting more sponsorship money. I have my doubts about that. I wrote a thing about gambling this week, which could be something that could feed into it. I think youth sales are going to be important. The league needs to make sure that teams are taking every single step they can to get on the solidest possible footing. And it's unfortunate that we don't have the safety net in place right now to prevent teams from falling through while we're getting that infrastructure in place.
And yeah, the added dimension as well is the fact that MLS, like their next 4 or 5 cities that they've named as potential expansion: Vegas, Detroit, Phoenix, Tampa Bay, and I think I might be missing one, but
well, I mean, Indy too. Like
Indy, yeah. I mean, yeah, basically every single one is already a USL, has a USL team. That, I mean, so far the only 2 examples that we have of like quote unquote coexistence is Miami and Charlotte, and neither of those teams, like, it is not shade on either of those organizations. I mean, aside from Charlotte, because they deserve it, but the like they don't draw, they don't, like, it's not actual competition, and it's almost more because of like just the stubbornness of the ownership, like more so than any sort of like actual thriving in the community or like embraced by the community. No one in Miami, unfortunately, is going to Miami FC games. They're like shockingly empty. Charlotte Independence have been poorly attended for a while, ever since like all the stuff went down with their owner. So yeah, I think it's just a shame, because I think we're staring down the barrel of some of the biggest names and brands in USL are like in the sights of MLS right now. So regardless of anything else, John, I think you mentioned the governance thing with USSF, and that's what it comes down to ultimately, is like, do we want like lower division teams to thrive, or do we want it to get eaten by MLS? And like, if it's the latter, then what does that look like, long term? Is it just going to be the blob and just continue to grow and grow and grow, or what does the end state actually look like? But yeah, I don't know. It's all a little bit strange without any sort of governance from the federation.
I want to answer a question that was put in chat, though. It's like, why does the league allow owners to have an end goal of MLS? And let's be honest, if they have an end goal of MLS, they're probably going to be fairly, like, what's the word? Opportunistic owners. They are going to try to be the best of the best. And it's not like you earn your way into MLS. It is a luck of the draw. Does your region that you are entering have a void? And is what you're doing working? And are you rich enough? In all reality, you have a lot of ownerships. Don't get it twisted. Every single ownership in this league, yes, including the people that are going to be like Oakland's and Detroit's that are going to be fan owned, there are going to be people who own a lot of those groups and that are very, very, very rich, right? A lot of those people cannot hold a candle to MLS rich, especially the way that it's going now. And that's just the truth. So if you're USL, you're letting those clubs in because there's a good chance that they're not going to get an MLS, and you just got yourself a gem of a franchise, i.e. Louisville City, i.e. Sacramento, i.e. San Antonio. Those, I mean, I'm not saying that all those clubs necessarily wanted to go MLS or Indy, which they've been pretty public about what their intentions actually are, but that's already in a pretty flooded Midwest. Chances are, unless something changes, those kind of teams are not going to be leaving anymore. They lost their opportunity, or there's already geo-locked by another club that is too close, and now they're quote-unquote stuck in USL, which is why the USL wants to bring those kind of teams in, because it's completely luck. There is no rhyme or reason or real philosophy on why. Sometimes it just happens, and the USL is banking on keeping, well, frankly, 4 quality franchises around.
I just think it's just so challenging when you see MLS coming in and it's almost off the backs of the success of a USL team that they look at like the San Diego Loyal and say, hey, they're capturing a good market there. We could go in and do that with 10 times the revenue and 10 times the spending of that. It really kind of just breaks your heart. Like you saw, in my opinion, a very kind of thinly veiled screenshot that the San Diego MLS team posted over the Loyal. And it really kind of rung hollow in my personal opinion. It was just one of those that, why did you who post this? You're the ones kind of actively pushing this team out of its own market. And it didn't seem like it was as good of a look from them personally for me. And just that MLS is looking at these markets that say, hey, they're being successful in another league. We could go in and just do better than that. And it's just heartbreaking to see for these teams that are supposed to be of their community and not this corporation that just comes in.
Yeah. Well, unless anybody has any final thoughts, again, I wish Alan was here. But listen, Two Balls has incredible stuff out there. Listen to all of that. Phil recently wrote just an incredible read, so check that out. I got the email notification while I was at work, and I immediately dropped what I was supposed to do because I'm willing to do anything to procrastinate. And then John both wrote for Backheeled, #ad, and Protagonist, #ad, check them out. Check those out. And seriously, it's all really good writing. And I know it feels very, circular in the conversation, but different perspectives really do allow for a lot of things. And it's a lot of really well-written work. Really soak in that San Diego content too, because they'll probably give you a real view of what is going on. Unless anybody has any final thoughts on the matter, let's go ahead and go to the week that was. There is no tactics show yet. There is going to be one tomorrow, so check out Twitter tomorrow. It's going to be posted. That's on me. Hands up. That's on me. It'll be fine. We have John here in person, so you don't need to listen to John from 3 days ago. You can listen to John now. So, but let's go ahead.
If you want some more San Diego content, wink, wink, nudge, nudge with that tactics show.
True. Right. Watch it tomorrow. Watch it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Twitter or X, whatever it is.
It's
Twitter, please.
Well, please go on to X and repost it when you see it.
They have to put Twitter in all of their stuff. Like,
it's so
still
funny.
Formerly Twitter.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
The website formerly known as Twitter, as
Exactly.
the Popstar once was.
Exactly.
Friends of social media, yeah.
Let's go ahead and just real fast talk about probably the most obvious scoreline I've ever seen. San Antonio 0, Pittsburgh 0.
Phil was the only one who picked a draw on this one, by the way.
I
refuse to pick draws.
In a terrible week for predictions, by the way.
I killed it.
Kaylor was the only one with his lock pick, correct?
This may have been one of the few things that I actually got right. The weird thing about this match is that there were 4 yellow cards in this game, all handed out in the first 15 minutes, and then there wasn't another one given the entire game. It was a very strange game. I'm like, there's no way this is ending 11v11, and then the ref was like, you know what, I've gone too far. Let's just let them do what they're gonna do. It's Pittsburgh San Antonio. He recalibrated and just didn't give out another caution. And I will say this is a Lilying of the highest order, in that it definitely was. Pittsburgh was in their shell. They tried maybe 2 counterattacks that I can remember. But it really was it seemed like they were playing for the draw, maybe looking for some Dequa magic, and ultimately San Antonio denied what would have been a really, really stunning goal from Oluwaseyi, unbelievable run, and he just puts the strike too close to the keeper. So San Antonio might feel a little hard done by, in terms of, I think they were definitely trying to do more, but nothing defines this game better than the fact that both teams absolutely just trying to give the ball back to the other side, and somehow just by accident Pittsburgh ends up with nearly 60% of the ball because that's how little San Antonio wants it. And yeah, just really one of those things. I don't know what the counter-attacking version of immovable force or unstoppable force meets immovable object, like it was just neither team wanted the ball. It spent a bunch of time in the midfield, and ultimately a game of few chances led to no goals.
I think if you, I was gonna say, I think if you're thinking like if you both have two cars at an intersection, you're like, oh, you go ahead, and it's like, no, you go ahead.
I decided to, because it was this is the only 0-0 match I've ever said I'm excited to watch this one back, because I just knew exactly what was going to happen before I even watched it. And to kind of speak to Ryan and Phil's point, I don't know if you guys remember the scene of SpongeBob or seen the scene of SpongeBob where he's like, now let him have it. And he goes, you can have it. That was like watching this entire match.
I think what stuck out for me in terms of the San Antonio side was they went with a really defensive-minded midfield, like with Connor Maloney and Ja'Cory Hayes. Rita Zahir, despite the fact that he's kind of scoring goals for fun, like he's fundamentally like a box-to-box guy, not exactly a creator. It kind of emphasized that they need Jorge Hernandez if they're going to break a defense down. Like, duh, to say that the guy with 8 assists tied for the league lead is going to be important in that regard, but increasingly true for San Antonio, maybe. Lily gonna Lily also. Like, Pittsburgh had no intention of trying to win this game. If they luckily got a goal on the counter, that was going to be that. But I would be excited to see this again in the finale, just for like the physicality, the messiness. The USL headquarters secretly super mad that it's going to be a boring physical game in the championship. All in all, this is what you expected.
What was shocking to me with this is we have now seen the first 2 back-to-back 0-0 draws at home for San Antonio, and it's their 3rd 0-0 draw this season. You had to go all the way back to the end of the 2021 regular season in terms of the games I'm looking at here to find the last time they had a 0-0 draw, which was against Austin Bold, and this is the 2nd time this year they've been shut out in back-to-back games as well.
R.I.P. Austin Bold.
Yeah. They were around for like what, 1 season, maybe 2.
I think 2.
2 seasons. And then they were just like, we're moving to Fort Worth, and we're like, when? And they're like, you'll see. And
TBD.
I guess it's kind of been announced because Super League is going there. Is that what they meant? We didn't know it, but they were cooking back then. Like they had it. Like, so let's go ahead and
inaugural Copa Tejas champions, Austin Bold.
Wild.
3 seasons? What? They were around for 3?
2020, 2021.
They did not feel like
two
a real
COVID
team.
shortened, yeah.
They did not feel like a real team to me. They never once felt like they existed. I watched them in person, and I didn't even believe what I was seeing, because like this is
They
not
were
a real
almost dead on arrival given the timing of MLS too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bizarre.
They announced and Precor like announced at the same time. Basically, Save the Crew was going on like as Austin Bold was being announced.
Let's go ahead and move on to Sacramento. Indomitable no more, but I guess it wasn't at home, so I guess whatever technicalities. Orange County good. 2-0 Orange County good. I'll look, I'm gonna just throw it out there. I was shocked, and it's not even that I was shocked that Orange County won. I was surprised that they won 2-0. I would at least think that Sacramento was going to bag a goal, make this a really fun, exciting match. And it was one. It was a fun, exciting match. But this is, and we say it all the time, and Orange County has become the staple child of have a good defense, bag a goal, and just see what happens, because they did it themselves. They became the poster child for it, but they're actually doing it. And it's really fun to watch as they're finally getting back on track after looking really bad to begin the season.
And I do want to shout out, like, this was the whole 20th anniversary. Sacramento is going back to Hughes Stadium where they played their first home game. They sold out the thing and got, like, I believe a shade over 20,000 fans in the seats, and it was rocking. But, man, Orange County on the field, they are executing perfectly right now. And this was a game with no Milan Miloski in the squad at all. Read into that as you will. But boy, what they do in the midfield with Kyle Scott, Seth Kasipli, Kevin Partita, they are so controlled. They really take advantage of a Sacramento team that has kind of been dominant all over. What they did out wide with Bryce Jamison moving over to the left really gave Jack Gurr trouble and didn't let him get upfield in the way that has been so effective. Yeah, we got a nice correction there that Sacramento Republic obviously haven't been around for 20 years. So yeah, that's on me, the 20,000 mixing me up. But still, I mean, Orange County has to be the focus, the way that they played in this game. They're for real, and to do it without the best player, big.
I was trying to decide who had the better smash and grab this weekend, Liverpool or Orange County. I think the thing that Sac Republic fans can certainly cling to is the fact that they still created a decent amount against a good Orange County side, and so I definitely don't think that this is the like is Sac Republic finished, type thing. They're I think they're still fine, and Orange County absolutely took their chances, and especially the second, coming off of just winning the ball in midfield. I think it's Keko who gets caught on the ball, and then an absolutely ridiculous pass over the top to find McNulty, who is probably a little unlucky that his touch drags him wide, but Seth Kasipli, there's a little bit of a nice story there, back in his hometown scoring. So anyways, there was a lot going on in this one. I think there is also some very dark irony in Sac Republic celebrating by playing in a college football stadium while another team is saying that they're folding because they're playing in a college football stadium. But anyways, to each their own. The crowd, though, it was noticeable. It did feel kind of like vintage Sac Republic when they were, on the road to MLS, and hopefully they can kind of recapture some of that, because, when they were selling out 25K a game and stuff like that, it's those people went somewhere, and the team is still around. So hopefully they can recapture some of that. But yeah, all in all, definitely a great performance for Orange County. And I think Thomas Among getting on the score sheet, that's a boost for him. And you could tell in the celebration, fingers and ears, and definitely feeling himself and getting back amongst the goals.
What was so impressive with me with Orange County in this one is that it's their 7th win in a row, which ties Tampa Bay's record from last season for the longest win streak in season, which has just been an impressive run of form. But more so that Orange County has not allowed a goal in the last 352 minutes. You could watch 51% of the Lord of the Rings extended edition in that time. But this is just so impressive to go back through these last 7 games, and they have 4 shutouts, 2 of which come against some of the league's best teams in Pittsburgh and Sacramento, that they may be a little bit ways off from Sacramento and San Antonio to get atop the Western Conference. But this is a team that should be on everyone's radar right now moving forward through the rest of the year. And when you look at Las Vegas as their next game, and just you have San Antonio twice again on the horizon, this is an Orange County team to watch out for.
Whenever Ryan lines one of those up, it's just let him cook. Let him cook.
Yeah, I think that just broke all of us at once. Oh my god.
If you aren't watching, go to wherever this is in the podcast around 34 minutes and just watch all of our face as Ryan deadpans, just keeps talking, brushes over 51% of the extending cut, as all of us have a buffer symbol over our heads. Just ridiculous. Nicholas Murray put in there, Juan Santana, that needed to be discussed.
I was going to say it, yeah.
18-year-old goalkeeper gets his first start for club. And look, the 3 chances that he had, don't get me wrong, they were good saves, but they aren't the highest quality chances if you look at the numbers. But also, if I'm 18 years old and I'm making my first ever start in front of 20,000 people, I'm letting all 3 of those in, every single one. So it's super impressive. And also, I mean, we just talked about how good the back line is. if you watch those matches, he is vocal there too. Like he is lining up defenses. It's like, I mean, don't get me wrong, there were moments where you're like, oh, he's 18, but also not it's not what you think you would expect to see from a 7 or 18-year-old in that situation. Somebody was helping line up the defenses. He wasn't just relying on his center backs to do so. He wasn't just relying on other people. He was doing it. Juan Santana, I mean, just a wonderful first day at the office.
And I do want to shout out Dylan Powers in the defensive line ahead of him. He's somebody who's been kind of in and out for Orange County. Traditionally had a move over to the UK, I think, in 2021. But his reinvention as kind of this rock of a center back has been gigantic for this team. He's so confident on the ball. He really gives them a sense of composure and build. He's got the leadership that means a lot when you get to these sorts of matchups. You're facing off against a team with Sacramento that's very fluid, has a lot of firepower in those areas. So, I mean, what Morten Carlson has done there is really a big deal.
Well, if anybody has anything they want to add, like Alan, hi.
Hey.
I figured if I showed up 36 minutes late, I would only miss the introduction and Kaylor's rant about Birmingham. And I figured the show just started, right?
It didn't really happen. It didn't really. The rant never really happened. I just said I was depressed, saying that I actually like Detroit City's players a lot. That's about it.
I just showed up 12 minutes late for every goal that Birmingham Legion let in. So,
oh, well, that was mean.
We're supposed to like be angry at each other because our teams are playing each other. At least the team that will continue to be Birmingham Legion will be playing the team that will no longer exist after a couple months. So.
Please knock on wood. For the love of God, knock on wood.
To be fair, Alan, Birmingham's conceded 44 goals this year, and you came in at the 37th minute. So
I don't like this game. This is not a fun game. I don't like this one. We did give a nice little hashtag ad. Check out Two Balls in a Mic. Lots of good content that came out. And Fairweather had one last post, right?
Yeah, I threw one up on Fairweather just for poops and giggles. I still somehow kept paying for Fairweather, the website, and so I was like, might as well, right? Might as well. It was going to end soon enough anyway, and so what better way to go out than putting out one last piece on Fairweather just to say thank you. And so Phil, I saw your post. John, your post also got lots of love. I know Orange and Black put something out, so it was super cool to see everyone kind of rallying around the issue, and Protagonists, I think, had some stuff as well. I know, John, your piece was on Protagonists, but I know that there was some discussion from some of the Protagonist regulars as well. And so everyone who just reached out to people, like, continue, like, we're appreciative. And, I think I made the joke that it's like the long legacy of USL show hosts losing their teams. It's a good group to be in, I guess. There's some USL legends from the USL show who've all seen their teams either disappear or change to no longer be what they used to be. So maybe it's a rite of passage. And I'll miss the team, but the opposite side is, now I can just pick whichever game I want to watch on Saturday and maybe take a road trip or two to go see some other teams. So I'm always trying to find the silver lining in it, and the relationships and the friendships and the memories will still be there. So that's always great.
Well, it's good to hear from you and Chad, and obviously Reed. We've already talked about this earlier, but Reed and all this stuff. Like, again, it's a lot of the same conversation, but different points of view, and they all kind of hit different heartstrings. As I guess Ryan's gone to go watch more Lord of the Rings. So you did miss that, Alan, and I'm so sorry for you. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit, just real fast, about Monterey Bay is like back on track. They do the thing. They finally figured out how to win a game again after getting a really nice draw to San Antonio. And then they go against Colorado Springs, and they looked good. The decisive goal, the final penalty at the end, it say what you will about it. Whether it was a pen, I know there was a lot of discussion that some people were like, I don't know. The camera angle isn't great. How can you even tell? And other people were like, I mean, this is about as penalty gets. But, Monterey Bay needed this one bad. But honestly, so did Colorado Springs. And if you're a Colorado Springs fan, that just feels like a dagger at this point.
I mean, this game was kind of on acid for the entire second half. This was a Monterey team that hadn't won in more than 2 calendar months. And then they go up by 2 men. Colorado Springs then gets a goal while they've got 9 players on the field. They're playing that sick 4-4 formation that we all know and love. And then suddenly they just can't defend. They give up 2 penalties after the 89th minute. And credit to Monterey Bay, of course, what they did with Maury Donner and Sam Gleadle, just free to do forward things. Like they were playing with 6 players in the box constantly. That's how you end up with 2 penalties. But then this ends with Colorado Springs getting another red card. So they finish with 8 players. Like this is the kind of havoc you live for in the USL. I love it. It's weird. The switchbacks continue to be really inconsistent. Like I don't get that team whatsoever. So not really takeaways, but that was just a fun one.
What was the last game that really had this much red card carnage? Was it that Charleston game last year where they finished with 7 because nobody wanted to play in Memphis?
I think that has to be it.
Yeah.
I can't think of any others recently.
San Diego was down in, I think, 9 in their playoff game against Oakland. There were quite a few. I think people were I think it was just like we're all going to collect red cards because I think they heard that they were rare, and so they're like, let's collect them while we get the chance. But yeah, it's wild to see. Like 1 red card is like, oh dang, 2 red cards are like, what is happening? Like more than that, you're like, are we even playing soccer at this point, or is it like those? Like those highlights where 2 professionals take on 1,000 school-age kids. Like, is this really soccer at this point, or is it? I mean, I think that game really sums up a lot of the chaos that was this weekend. I know that we're going to talk about one later, but there just seemed to be something in the water this weekend that things were just outrageously weird.
I saw the takes that like, oh, the penalties are legit, and I see in the chat like people saying, yep, those both penalties were legit. Colorado Springs is down to 9 men for close to half an hour, and including stoppage time over half an hour. If you can't score from open play against 9, then you don't deserve the penalties, in my mind. This is not a serious take, but it did have the feeling of like, well, I don't know if you guys have seen the old clip of Michael Owen scoring a penalty against like a little kid and Neville Southall saying, well done, he's 13, or whatever, too. And that was the vibe that I had when Valesky like celebrated the second penalty. Like, I know they won the game, and at the same time, it felt like, well done, they're down to 9. Like, yeah, you should have done this a long time ago. I don't know. It felt very weird. I think like from Colorado Springs perspective, the Malik Foster one, I would say the Fjellberg one for me, I don't know. Like I could have gone either way on that being a second yellow. Like I get why it's given, and at the same time, like I don't think he's under any pressure to give a card there. I think Monterey Bay's reaction almost buys the booking because I don't think there's much in it. The Foster one is just like totally brain dead, like putting both hands on the shoulder, all that stuff. Like I don't really understand like what he's thinking there, especially given the fact he's already on a yellow. Half of Colorado Springs team, like 6 out of the 11, end up in the book in this one, and 3 of those got were reds. So it's just like, yeah, it just really feels like this Colorado Springs team just for whatever reason can't be serious like more than 1 game in a row. They just aren't capable of it, unfortunately. And Monterey Bay, they get the win. They deserve the win on the night, and like the manner in which it happened, I don't know. It just left a sour taste in my mouth seeing him score 2 penalties to win it against a team with 9 men.
And to confirm what Kaylor had said earlier, yes, it was that Memphis Charleston game from last year, as Nicholas Murray is saying in chat. That was 345 days ago. I'm disappointed that wasn't to the day. And for a Premier League comparison, there are 2 Premier League teams in history, Newcastle in 2005 and West Ham in 1999, and Barnsley against Liverpool in 1998, who had 3 red cards to themselves in a match as well.
I'm just throwing my hands up, like, hold on, let him cook with Ryan and Nicholas Murray right now.
Oh man,
It's like there's actually like a Bundesliga 3 team that had 5 yellow cards in like 1842. That's what I'm expecting next from one of those 2. Like just some random, like, I don't know, Saudi Arabia 2 league or something. This is amazing.
Oh man. I want to do a quick audible from what we had originally planned. I want to skip just real fast over to Central Valley and Madison, and later I want to talk about the Tormenta Chattanooga game. Because you don't get 2 4-4 matches in the same weekend very often. I want to talk first about this Central Valley Madison game because it was on just everything. Christian Chaney goes back to Central Valley for the first time. And if you don't know, he played for Central Valley. He put on Twitter, hey, if you are a fan of me, wear pink to this game, even if you're a Central Valley fan. And several Central Valley fans said, yes, sir, Mr. Chaney. And there was a real deal SG section for Chaney, not Ford Madison, just Chaney. And what does he do? He goes on and gets 2 goals. And the very first minute of the game, you have Central Valley scoring. Then you get 5 minutes later a response from Ford Madison. Then you get Chaney on a penalty, and which the SG for Chaney was going nuts in this moment. Then Bajev scores a goal. He's still there. He's still alive. Don't forget about that. And then you have like Dulises, I think is how you pronounce his name. I'm trying to remember now off the top of my head. They go ahead 3-2. And then Lowell goes up 4-2. The Christian Chaney fan club is in the mud. Guess what? Now Ford Madison goes down a man because of course they do, but League One happens because of course it does. We get De Silva scoring to make it 4-3. Ford Madison. Remember, they're down a man. And then Christian Chaney wins it or gets the draw in the 83rd. And the Christian Chaney SG section goes crazy because down a man, they pull back 2 goals to make it a 4-4 game. Just stupid stuff happens in the Valley. I don't know.
Not only that, Chaney is from Fresno. He played for Fresno FC. He played for Central Valley. The attendance was listed around 800 to 900. If you actually looked, it may have been half Christian Chaney fans just all in one end when he went to celebrate with them. Like, this was fantastic. I do think that this was a game with some I'm never the guy to be like, the goalies were bad. This was a game with some real bad goalkeeping, if you ask me. Like, it's the kind of havoc you live for. If you're someone who just watches League One and you get like the Pac-12 after dark effect with Central Valley every weekend, you're kind of living. What a league.
Pac-12 after dark, literally, because the first like 30 minutes of this game was played in like the pitch dark. I was watching, I was just like, is someone gonna flip the lights on? I felt like I was in a Kmart. Like is someone gonna cut the lights on back here, or are we closing up? Like what's happening? And then yeah, can we talk about Kudus Lawal? Does he not have the maddest career trajectory like of all time? He absolutely tears it up pre-COVID in USL, gets a move to Albania from San Diego, right? Then goes to Egypt and plays like a half a season there, and then comes back and plays for 2 random semi-pro teams in Chicago and Milwaukee. before going out to Central Valley. Like, what I straight up could not, like, because when I saw him score, I was like, was he not like tipped for like to be one of like the biggest players in USL at one point? Like he was absolutely tearing up in Fresno, and then now he's just randomly popped back up in Central Valley after making his way out of Egypt.
Sorry, internet cut out for a minute. You talk about people with crazy career trajectories. Are we talking about Corey Herzog again, or what?
Hey, former Wilmington
Yeah.
Hammerhead, Corey Herzog. You introduced him correctly, sir.
And Kudus
37
Lawal.
Yeah, Kudus Lawal. I was just
Yeah,
gonna say.
37 appearances for Kudus Lawal. I saw him play at Legion Field, and it still makes me upset that I bid for his kit for, I think we had a 4th of July kit, and I just missed out on the final bid because someone got a higher bid on his kit like 10 minutes after, right before it closed, and I missed it. But
so what you're saying is 40% of the USL show currently have seen Kudus Lawal like in real life, in person, play USL Championship soccer.
If you really want to cook with the USL show kit, you get Lawal 27 on the back.
I mean, honestly, there's a weird, like, just twisted part of me that wants to like come out with a new kit and it just be pink and just be a Cheney kit. There is a part of me, and just sell it only to Central Valley fans. Like, just sell it to people in Fresno. This is the Fresno kit, and it just has Christian Cheney's face on it. That is a thought in my mind. Look, this entire match was just stupid. It was incredible. And this is coming after I had gone to bed because I was sick. Because I said, you know what? Absolutely nothing is going to top this Chattanooga versus Tormenta match. This was the match of the weekend. And then I went to bed and missed whatever happened over. And then I immediately had to watch it immediately the next morning. You get Tormenta in the 13th minute scoring. Then you get Rapapa Mensah. Yeah, him ends up scoring. And then you get Keziah Sterling. And then you got Cardona levels it back. You get Marsh going ahead for the Red Wolves. And then you got Akale, or is it Akale? I can't remember off the top of my head. Levels it 3-3. You got Fonseca makes it 3-4 Tormenta way. And then Rapapa Mensah in the 95th minute, yeah, him, shows up and levels it again because Chattanooga had to show that they were alive. And Tormenta said, we can score goals. Our defense isn't great, but we can score goals. And surely that was going to be the match of the weekend, right? I mean, just ridiculous stuff out of League One.
This is turning into a real Remember Some Guys episode of the show.
I'm telling you, Immaculate Grid needs to have a USL version of it.
That would be impossible. Kudus Lawal would be the answer to every single intersection.
He's the whole night of it.
We need
The
a
Jeb is
huge
on there.
undertaking, but I'd love to find like a USL bacon number, just that one player who's played with the most other players across the entire league.
Ooh,
but-
Opano. It has to be like Opano, right?
Opano's
Maybe.
definitely threatened the most players in the league. That's definitely, he's definitely up there for that.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean, this Chattanooga versus Tormenta match, I mean, Tormenta probably feels a little hard done by because like they seem to have the better of the play and Chattanooga just didn't care. And it was just fun. And they missed chances. Both teams. Here's the crazy part about this is if you watch this match back, both teams missed some real chances. It's not like they both had 4 shots on goal. They all went in. They missed real deal chances that, if we're being honest, yeah, if they were playing in, Central Valley and it was Fuego versus Madison, those goals probably go in. It was brutal. It was kind of a brutal, exciting match, and it was everything that I always tell people that League One is.
There were 37 shots in the Chattanooga Tormenta game. Like, it was an absolute shooting gallery, and it was divided 18-19. So, like, both teams just were having, like, an absolute free range in terms of just assaulting the goal. And to put it in perspective, like 8 goals from 16 shots on goal between the two teams, as opposed to in Central Valley and Fort Madison, 8 goals from 11 shots on goal, which feels like a lot, like a pretty big difference, and speaks to your point, John, about the quality of the goalkeeping.
What's wild about the Tormenta game, they beat Chattanooga on XG 3.4 to 0.9. Like, Red Wolves were kind of just firing in not great situations, and Tormenta were taking them to task, but it is what it is. Like, sometimes soccer be like that. Also, shout to Keziah Sterling is on a heater right now. He's got 12 goals in 16 appearances. When we got to do that prediction thing mid-season for League One, my call was that because Sterling was going to come back from injury and lead them to the playoffs and win MVP. He's not going to do that because they're not going to make the playoffs, but I'm taking some credit for Sterling being a boss at least.
Yeah. Also, Dane Kelly is an incredible shout. For your player. I mean, we're right now. I can just see, you have Reno and Swope Park, which we can talk about San Diego folding all day long. We can talk about other teams dying, but Swope Park Rangers turning into KC2 is truly the biggest tragedy in all of American sports.
What?
Don't you dare tell me that Swope Park Rangers is not
Philadelphia Union 2.
That's definitely not the biggest tragedy. That's wild to say that with Alan sitting right here.
I was gonna say what was like the 1980 Olympics. Like, I mean, we're talking about tragedies. Like, let's put this in perspective. Like, there are like way worse than losing your team.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like renaming a team from Slope Park Rangers to KC2.
Yeah, renaming a team. Oh man. Wow.
I agree with John. I think the Bethlehem Steel to Philadelphia Union 2 is worse because not only do they take they had I agree.
I don't know. The second that they used the steel beams to make the Roman numeral 2, I passed away.
That's fair, but come on, Bethlehem Steel, that's like U.S. soccer history.
And them being a feeder team for another
True.
team is like the worst bastardization. Anyways.
Look, there was the whenever you have Penn FC and Harrisburg and all that stuff, I've talked about this before. Cemented in my brain is the recycling dolphin. If you go back and watch old matches of just like Penn FC and whatnot, there was a dolphin that would show up during halftime that would just like stare into your soul and tell you to recycle. And I think about that dolphin a lot more than I would like to admit. I'll be honest. That's just where we are. We're reminiscing over things today because I guess that's where we are. Old players, old Dolphins. It's all here.
Oh, okay. One last thing on Kudus Lawaldo before we move on is that he signed for Fuego on August 11th. Like, he signed for them like not quite 3 weeks ago.
We're not allowed to talk about Fresno's roster management. They're just havoc.
They have a new training facility on the way. That's been announced. But they will announce a player that's played like 5 games for them.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
2 goals in 3. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you watched that Chattanooga Tormenta match, you saw more shots in that game than Sheffield United have taken in 3 games.
I mean, good for them. Oh,
I'm just shocked that Everton have taken more shots, actually.
I'm really glad Nicholas Murray is in chat bailing me out on this one. I'm really glad. All right, this has gone off the rails just ridiculously. let's quickly. Did we put any predictions that we actually wanted to do, or no?
Predictions. I got some.
All right, cool. Well,
I'll
actually,
throw them in the chat. Yeah,
I
I'll
see
honestly
them.
lead the way on
I
this.
see them at the
Okay,
top.
you got it. Okay.
I see him. I see him. All right. First up, we're going to go with Alan first. What do we have for our Indy versus the Miami FC? Indy, who have seemed to, like we said before, are kind of figuring out things are looking good. The Miami FC are like it's just not good. It's just not going great for them. But this is also a Miami team that, I mean, for some weird reason, they just travel better than, most teams in the league. So can they do it in Indy, in the Circle City?
Well, I mean, the way you sold that introduction, if I pick Miami, I seem like I'm insane. But I'm picking 11. I think Indy 11 is finally listening to Mark Lowry and not allowing them to other teams to score, I guess is what he puts them in positions to win the game, is what he said. So maybe they're finally listening to him. And so I'm going Indy 11.
See, I guess is this, here's the over under 1.5 on the amount of fans that players are allowed to talk to before getting to the locker room.
Over under 1.5 fans if this game was in Miami.
But it's in Miami, not Fort Lauderdale. Thank you very much. Messi's not even in Miami. What a fake fan, honestly. Lionel Messi, fake fan.
Am I next or?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I went with Indy on this one too. I think their recent run of results has been really impressive. Yeah, they've kind of been finding a way regardless. And last time out in Miami, they shut out Miami in a 1-0 win. I think they get the job done again.
Yeah, Indy 11 are unbeaten in their last 6 games, despite the Miami FC winning their last 3 on the road. I think it's going to be a very difficult game for the Miami FC, so I'm locking Indy 11 this week to win.
If there's one spot for Indy right now, despite the fact that they're red hot, I think 5 undefeated with 4 wins, if I'm remembering right. But if they're weak anywhere, it's down their left side defensively. Mark Segbers is going to have a big game. I trust Miami's defense enough on the other end that I think it's going to be a draw.
I'm going Indy here. I think that that's just the way it works out. My personal idea is believe in, or I refuse to believe in Miami until they give me a reason, and I just believe in Indy more in this situation. Let's go ahead, and we are going to go up into the east, west, probably east, to Detroit, and we are going to have Detroit taking on Memphis. And this is a Detroit team who scored 2.5 goals. They got an own goal against Birmingham, but they did figure out some stuff over on that left-hand side. And Memphis is a team that has looked better in scoring, but their defense has been susceptible. So are they going to be able to score on a still pretty strong Detroit back line? Or is Detroit going to actually say, hey, no, we do know how to score now. We can do this now.
Can I say neither, but Detroit's probably still going to win?
Yes.
Sure.
And that's what I'm going with.
I mean, you can say whatever you want.
I said Swope Park Rangers was the biggest tragedy in U.S. sports. You can say whatever you want to on this podcast.
So I'm going to say probably not to both of those questions, but I still think Detroit's going to win.
Yeah, you can say that.
I went with Memphis. I think despite the fact that they've been kind of up and down, Detroit at home still gives me disappointment vibes. And I think Memphis have enough about them to get the win in this one, just because Detroit they seem to not be that good at home this year. So
what
Brian?
shocked me with Detroit's victory over Birmingham was just the fact that they scored more than 2 goals in a game. I mean, you have to go back to their victory over El Paso to find the last time they had scored 3 goals in a match. Sorry, Phil, but
Misery loves company, baby.
they're back at Keyworth for this one. You have 3 of the last 4 games at Keyworth. Detroit has shut out their opponents, so I'm backing Detroit to win this one in another very low scoring, take the under 2.5 goals affair.
Yeah, I went Detroit here as well. I think that they're very opportunistic when they need to be. I think what they do with Ben Morris, kind of just poaching chances against backlines that are a little bit slower, is going to play against Memphis. I think Detroit knows how to defend against this team. I think Charleston laid out a roadmap in a 4-4-1-1 shape that Detroit is very comfortable using. So I see them getting the 3 points here.
I always weirdly believe in Detroit because that backline plays, and I refuse to believe in Memphis after they went on that super hot run and then they just got as cold can be, and they just haven't really gotten my trust back. And I just always have this weird faith in Detroit to at least hold the other team to 1 goal, and maybe they can get a draw. Since it's at home, I'm giving Detroit the win. Let's go ahead and go to sunny San Diego. Check out the zoo while you're over there. Why not? There's other things to do, I'm sure. San Diego versus Birmingham. Alan.
I feel like I'm not only obligated to pick San Diego here. I do think San Diego's playing much better offensively. They still have some defensive issues, but they're starting to return to that form of, if we're not defensively solid, we might be able to outscore you and win. And, you know, we saw what happened with Birmingham. I'm not convinced that they will figure it out defensively on the wings, which is like on the backline wings. So I guess those are fullbacks these days. It's hard to keep track these days with tactics, and which San Diego can probably take advantage of. But I do think, you know, the middle of the park is going to be strong for Birmingham. So that's a fun matchup that I think is going to be who can win the midfield. Might determine the winner, but I'm going to go with San Diego here. Barring some unforeseen injury announcement that I'm unaware of. But Tumi Moshabani's scoring, Ronaldo Damas is scoring, and then you got, you know, Blondie McBlonderson. He came out with the Eminem hair a couple weeks ago, and he's doing pretty well as well.
Yeah, I went with Loyal as well, and mine is way more down to, I think Legion are going to be trying to bounce back from obviously what was a disappointing loss, and I think it's just tough for teams to go cross country and win. I think we've seen enough examples now where it's just difficult to do that. And against the Loyal side, which is regaining maybe a little bit of their identity, I think San Diego gets it done against Legion, unfortunately for you, Kaylor. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm backing San Diego to win this one. As Phil had mentioned, it's just so difficult to go cross country. Despite their victory back in April over Orange County, that was the last time you saw Birmingham travel across the country to get a win. Since that, they've had a 3-3 game with Las Vegas and a 2-1 defeat with Colorado Springs, both on the road. I just think San Diego is going to just be galvanized by the support at home, and they're going to get 3 points here.
Yeah, going for a draw. I think each of these teams has a way to beat the other. Kaylor, you've talked a lot about the struggles of the Birmingham fullbacks at times, and I think that the Loyal are pretty well equipped to take advantage. I do think that Diba Nwegbo is going to be pretty effective getting in behind Adrian Perez on that side for the Loyal. I think that's something to watch. I think Birmingham hasn't quite got the results that they've maybe deserved in some of their games recently, so I see things kind of canceling out here.
I have zero faith. Lock the Loyal. I know I said lock Louisville. I have zero faith right now. It's everything's fine. Everything's okay. In all seriousness, though, I'm going to change it to lock the Loyal because I originally said lock Lou City just because Colorado Springs is going to have no one. Although this may mean that Kyler Tate, was that his name, the goalkeeper that showed up out of nowhere for Colorado Springs last year, maybe he finally gets to play. That would be cool. But I'm going with San Diego, honestly, purely because of the announcement that Loyal will no longer be, and it's a Labor Day weekend, so people are going to have more time and maybe they're going to be more likely to come out. So I'm expecting a pretty nice crowd on a Labor Day weekend, and should be a fun one out in San Diego. Not for me, but I'm sure the weather would be fantastic. So enjoy that for me, Alan.
I will, and then I'll go see Weezer right afterwards. So it'll be a nice, fun Sunday afternoon for me.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm like leaning into my nerdiness that weekend.
Oh man, I want to see Weezer so bad. I've heard they're really good. Although on the flip side, it's like same vibe. I've heard Blink 182 is just awful, an awful concert. Whatever. Anyway, let's go ahead and go down to Stormy Tormenta, and we are going to have Tormenta taking on One Nox. Again, One Nox always feels like they are on the breaking point of being really good. Same with Tormenta. And is it going to turn out to anything? Is Tormenta finally going to start really winning at home? Is One Nox just going to continue to get points along the way and just kind of backward step into the playoffs? We'll see.
Yes, we will. I went with Tormenta on this one, and I also want to add to Robert, joke's on you, I'm locking San Antonio this week.
I went with Tormenta as well. I think Tormenta has been they've been a little bit shaky defensively, but they've also been a little bit unlucky in that they're scoring a lot of goals and they're obviously not getting the rub of the green. So I think against One Nox, who's been a little goal shy, I think Tormenta have the firepower to get past them.
Yeah, I mean, Tormenta has scored in their last 11 games, and what's just been most impressive in that run of time is that in only one of those games did they score just one goal in that time. I think Tormenta's been very much the better side than their record has indicated this season. So I'm backing them to win this one, and I just think this is a very crucial game for both teams as they're just right there on the cusp of the playoff line, and that a win for either team would take them 1 point behind Greenfield Triumph, assuming results break their way.
Yeah, I went Tormenta here as well. I think we're kind of sleeping on the fact that like these teams are even on points right now. We're leaning into Tormenta because they're Tormenta, but hey, I mean, I just was puffing up Kazaya Sterling earlier. I got to go with that pick. Plus, we're working with them on the charity kit, so come on, Tormenta.
Yeah, full bias here, absolutely. Also, it just feels like Tormenta is going to score, and Knoxville hasn't. Their backline, like they have really good players on their backline. Their backline has looked good, but it doesn't feel like they can put it together for a sustained period of time. Meanwhile, it feels like Tormenta is sustaining this kind of attack. So I am going with Tormenta at home. Plus, I just like hearing the siren they have at home. It just makes me happy for some weird reason.
Just a show full of Bolt Ultras.
Now, imagine a bunch of people in Central Valley all wearing the Bolt.
Ultras. If any Tormenta fans are out there and you don't found the Boltras this instant, I will, and I will copyright it, and I will make you pay $10,000 for the name.
Yeah, little did you know, Bolt already has it. Already under the copyright. He's just been waiting.
Boltras.
And unfortunately, they are not able to make it on today. But our own Lexington Luther is taking on one Harry Gio Cañas with Lexington versus Greenville. Lexington, who are getting results. They're finally looking like the team we all thought they would be at the beginning of the season versus a Greenville team who I think everybody thinks they're worse than they actually are, but they're also not as good as we think they should be. They're in this weird gray area of being constantly confused. Lexington versus Greenville.
This is like picking between your two favorite kids, like your two kids, like who's your favorite, right? Like Tyler and Gio. And like I do have a favorite. I'm just not going to tell them which one, so I'm going with the draw.
I went with Greenville. I think watching the game between them and Omaha it just really reminded me of the fact that I think there's a really good team in Greenville that hasn't really lived up to its full potential this year. That felt like a game between two really good teams. Obviously, Omaha are capitalizing in a more so in terms of like climbing the standings. But Greenville just feel like they are constantly on the cusp of something. Meanwhile, Lexington just, again, I don't know that they have the firepower. And I think Greenville in this mean green derby that we have, I think Greenville take it.
I went with the draw with this one. I think the larger story at play here is that Lexington desperately need a victory coming out of this one. We were already talking about online that the likes of Fuego, Chattanooga, and Richmond are already kind of staring down just tear down seasons for the rest of the year and kind of rebuilding. And you're looking at a Lexington team who is even on points, but a game in hand over that Richmond side that if they cannot start picking up points, it's not looking likely that they'll be in the playoffs right now. And I think they're going to come into this game trying to be motivated, but Greenville, who's wanting to establish a better cushion for themselves in the postseason, is going to cancel that out. So I'm picking the draw.
Yeah, remember when you had people on this show who like lived in League One cities and followed League One? That was wild. I'm going draw here. I think the Triumph are the better team. I think that they're really killer in terms of what they're doing in the press. But Lexington's got a little bit of magic right now. Tate Robertson, sick crosser at that right back spot. And they're going to get a draw because I can't choose between our favorites.
I'm taking Greenville. I think that Lexington really has the magic cooking at home, which, by the way, if you haven't watched a Lexington match, those home games are really fun. They are a really fun product to watch with just all the fans in the stands. Like they are really doing League One, and heck, if you want to even say like for even championship levels, they're doing it right. It's really, really fun to watch. But Greenville, I trust the talent. I hate to say it, but sometimes when you are looking at these matches that are really close, we're looking at the names on the back of the jerseys, and I really trust what's there. And I also feel like just kind of the way that Greenville plays, they're not as sloppy in the final third as a lot of the teams that Lexington has been able to really take, care of recently. So I think that this is going to be Greenville taking this one in what'd you call it, a mean green derby, like a mean green soccer machine or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 90s kids will remember the mean green. I don't know if anyone else remembers that movie. It's absolutely unhinged.
Oh man. Any final USL thoughts for the night from us?
Yeah, let me shout out. I know we've had Nicholas Murray blessing us in the chat tonight. I mean, everything he writes is straight fire, but the USL newsletter that he's doing, the rondos, the branding, that thing is necessary for anybody who's following the league right now. So shout out to that. That'll be my plug here.
I was going to quickly mention not what I'm wearing. Thank you. I'm assuming it's going to be Dan, and I don't know, maybe it's not Dan, but Omaha has been on a heater, and I know I want to talk about it today, but also with everything else that was going on in the crazy matches that we had in League One, it felt like Omaha and Greenville, like for us to talk about that match really wouldn't have done Omaha the justice. Omaha has been on a heater, and they have looked really good, and they are looking like the Omaha team that we really think that Omaha should be after losing, Mims to the abyss wherever he went. And so it's been really fun to watch them go and climb into the standings, and that's a fan base that is real when they are really going. Their Twitter presence is just a great time. So like just being terminally online, it's always better when Omaha's good.
And I guess I'll self-plug the fact that I wrote a big old "What is Omaha doing" piece today. So read that thing.
What's Jay Mims doing? That's the question.
No one knows.
No one.
He's
Like-
off in Albania. He's following the Kudus Lawal.
Just
He
wait
br-
for about 3 years. He's going to be in Central Valley. Just mark it.
He brought Lawal back from Egypt.
It was a mission.
We needed a new modern day "Where is Preki" moment for the league.
Oh man. Final thoughts on the night, non-soccer related. Alan,
Yes.
what's your final thoughts?
It's I don't know. It's like 4 million degrees in my apartment right now, and my brain is like literally boiling. So I have like nothing left to give.
No brain cells remaining. That's fine.
Let him cook. Alive.
Get some ice after this. Rest up. Phil.
I'm not going to be able to think about anything but Kudus Lawal for the next 3 months minimum. so non-soccer related. I think I mentioned the last time I'm on the show I was falling into the Formula One rabbit hole. I'm fully down it. I'm beyond the looking glass. I have finished. I'm caught up on Drive to Survive. I watched 5 seasons in like 2 weeks. Yeah, and then so my team that I've started following, Alpine, got a podium, Pierre Gasly, at the Dutch Grand Prix this weekend in the crazy wet conditions. So I'm just like I'm eating it up right now because I like randomly got attached to this French team and now they were cooking in real life. So yeah, I'm just like fully in that rabbit hole now.
You should have saw them earlier in the season when they wrecked into each other at Hungary, and that was like just more peak Alpine that you'll know and come to love.
I needed like I couldn't help myself but get attached to a team that will hurt me. Like that's I don't have my sporting history is clear. Cubs, Liverpool, Locomotive, and now Alpine. Just more people to hurt my feelings.
I just follow Williams for the vibes, I guess. But yeah, I guess non-soccer related. Ahsoka has been pretty good to watch, and excited for another episode of that tonight.
Yeah, I was going to shout out the same thing. In about 5 minutes, I'm supposed to be getting on a FaceTime thingy to watch the new Ahsoka episode, but my life is committed to Kudus content at this point, so...
Well, we'll try to get you out of here before that starts. This is obviously can't share details because teaching and stuff. But I always thought it was really. I always thought it was really weird when I was a kid. Whenever like teachers had like beefs and stuff with students. But right now, I have like strong beef with a 12-year-old. I never thought I'd hate a 12-year-old, but I hate a 12-year-old, and that's where we are, and that's fine. That's totally okay. I've accepted it. But if you
real quick, which 12-year-old plays fullback for Birmingham that you're so mad about?
That's the issue. Unfortunately, he's not 12 years old. He's a grown adult. So, yeah, so that's where we are, but it's okay. Again, check out the USL show kits, 100% of the proceeds, 100%. We are pocketing 0 of it. Will be going to the Carter Payne Fund with South Georgia Tormenta. Highly recommend it. So thank you all so much for listening. It helps support the cause. Read Protagonist stuff, listen to Protagonist stuff, Backheeled, other stuff. Seriously Loco, 2 balls, everything ever. Read it, watch it, love it. Here's Alan for the last time tonight.
Free Kudus.
Thank you for watching another episode of the USL Show. The USL Show is now proudly part of the Protagonist podcast family. Please go to protagonistsoccer.com to check out more work. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see everyone again next time.